Everything is dependent on
We
oil.
are killing for gasoline.
The world is almost out of water.
Water. Now there's the water wars.
Here they come again. Everybody's gone out of their mind. You're not the only one, Max.
Out here, everything hurts. You want to get through this? Do as I say. Now pick up what you can and run.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Hey, what's your name?
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House once again. And I am Sandy Schoelles, and this is my partner, Jennifer Hynes, as you all know. We had a pretty interesting opening. I just got a bug in me and felt like doing something different. And,
I loved it. It
you
was
know,
great. It was really edgy.
yeah, a little yeah, it was actually that was from 2015 and it was the trailer. It was the
Oh
actual
yeah.
trailer. Yeah. So we have a busy night. We have a good intermission. Jennifer's going to do the overview, and I'm going to tell you we are doing a little celebration to begin with of the International Day of World's Indigenous Peoples 2022. But I will have Jennifer first take it away and
All
tell
right.
us everything we're going to do, and then I will start my piece.
Okay, guys. Hope everybody out there is doing good today. We have a fabulous show lined up for you, guaranteed. And we're going to start off with an article from The Guardian revealed how climate change breakdown is supercharging the toll of extreme weather. We have that. And then Sandy's going to take it away with an entry from ACS Publications Environmental Science and Technology. This is a technical paper. I think she's going to read the abstract. Outside the safe operating space of a new planetary boundary for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. Ow, my brain hurts.
My brain hurts every day.
My brain hurts. That was,
Ouch.
yeah. And Sandy, are we going to do the one from C? Are we going to do the one from C and EN PFOA
Yes.
in rain
Yeah, I'm
worldwide?
going to do
Okay.
those two.
Okay. Worldwide exceeds the EPA advisory level. So no good news. It looks like the water is polluted with bad things. Oh
Yeah.
dear.
Oh my
So,
God.
such as the times that we live in. And speaking of times, we have our next article from Times Now. Heat wave in Europe, flood in the Gulf. What is causing such erratic weather patterns? So, I'm going to take that away. And then we're going to have a little pictorial in pictures. Drought hits Europe's rivers and crops. And then we're actually going to follow it up with our last little tribute to a true warrior in the environmental movement. James Lovelock, creator
Yes.
of Gaia Hypothesis, dies on 103rd birthday. So a little tribute to James Lovelock and
Yeah.
his very influential Gaia Hypothesis.
Yep.
And that, Sandy, is a show and a
That
half.
is a show. We've got a show. So
We've got
sit
a
back.
show.
I'm going to play a little vid. And I want you to guys watch this. And then, of course, it's women powered, a little bit women powered. All right, here we go with this one.
On this year's International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples, we are highlighting the role of Indigenous women in preserving and passing on traditional knowledge. Indigenous women are knowledge keepers of traditional food systems and medicines. They are champions of Indigenous languages and cultures. They defend the environment and Indigenous peoples' human rights. To build an equitable and sustainable future that leaves no one behind, we must amplify the voices of Indigenous women. Indigenous traditional knowledge can offer solutions to many of our common challenges. On my recent visit to Suriname, I learned firsthand how Indigenous peoples are protecting their rainforests and its rich biodiversity. On this International Day, I call on member states to implement the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and to promote Indigenous traditional knowledge for the benefit of all. On this year's
Well.
International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples,
Okay.
we are
Let me
highlighting the
shut
role
him
of
off, and I'm going to start with an article that just goes over the International Day of World's Indigenous People, and honestly, it's a lovely, 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 lovely thing. This is by a little. Wait a minute. Okay, wait. All right, this is by a little the Quint. And I'm just going to go quickly. International Day of World's Indigenous People is observed on 9th of August to pay tribute to Indigenous communities around the world. According to the latest data, there are about 370 to 500 million Indigenous people living in 90 countries. Indigenous communities have their own unique set of languages, traditions, cultures, and governing systems. Many Indigenous groups follow the same system practiced by their ancestors for centuries. These systems have stood the test of time, and always come up with positive outcomes. Indigenous people's special bond and connection with nature have also led to the protection of the environment, which is so important. But various indigenous communities face difficulties due to governments' covert and overt attempts to control their lives. Let's have a quick look at the history, significance, and theme of the International Day of Women of World's World's Indigenous Peoples. The International Day, the theme, the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs has organized a virtual commemoration, which was this morning actually. And the theme was the role of Indigenous women, as Antonio Guterres said. And it was the first day was in August 1995, came into existence when the 49-214 resolution was passed by the UN General Assembly on that day, the 23rd of December. 9th was chosen as the commemorative date since it was the first meeting of the UN Working Group on Indigenous Populations of the Subcommission on the Promotion and Protection of Human Rights. So over the years, various Indigenous groups have found themselves to be on a disadvantaged terrain due to urban development projects that destroyed and denigrated their lands and territories. Organizations and agencies like the UN and UNESCO have been making efforts for constitutional legislative reforms for dominant Indigenous groups. And I found this, which this is a Canadian, of course, we all know what horrors happen in Canada, but on this day, we acknowledge over 476 million Indigenous people, and I just wanted to show you the pictures because they were lovely. And beautiful, just beautiful pictures that were on this tweet. Just gorgeous. The people, the dress, what people wear. They, we need to recognize that we have to protect the cultures, languages, and human rights of Indigenous people in Canada, United States, and around the world. So there is our opening tribute, and I wanted to tell everybody, any of our Indigenous followers, we love you, we respect you, and we need you. So I'm going to give you guys the applause because we do. We love you. Thank you for being with us. And we're going to move on. Now, the next one, Jennifer's going to take, and this is like the beginning of the show.
Yes, exactly. So this one is from The Guardian, and I told you guys the title revealed how climate breakdown is supercharging toll of extreme weather. And so this is an analysis in The Guardian that shows human-caused global heating is driving more frequent and deadly disasters across the planet. In the most comprehensive compilation to date, which is saying something. So holy cow, hold on to your seats, guys. Here we go.
Holy cow.
Holy cow. The devastating intensification of extreme weather is laid bare today in a Guardian analysis that shows how people across the world are losing their lives and livelihoods due to more deadly and more frequent heat waves, floods, wildfires, and droughts brought by the climate crisis. The analysis of hundreds of scientific studies, the most comprehensive compilation to date, demonstrates beyond any doubt how humanity's vast carbon emissions are forcing the climate to disastrous new extremes. At least a dozen of the most serious events, from killer heat waves to boiling seas, would have been all but impossible without human-caused global heating, the analysis found. Most worryingly, all this is happening with a rise of just 1°C in the planet's average temperature. The role of global heating in supercharging extreme weather is happening at astonishing speed, scientists say. Quote, "The world is changing fast and it's already hurting us. That is the blunt summary," said Professor Maarten van Alles, the director of the International Red Cross Crescent Climate Center. The world is currently on track for a rise of at least 2.5°C. Based on what we have experienced so far, that would deliver death and destruction far greater than already suffered. The studies analyzed used for scientific technique called attribution to determine how much worse or more likely an extreme weather event was made by human-caused global heating. The technique's power is in drawing a direct link between the disasters that people suffer through and the often abstract increase in atmospheric greenhouse gases caused by the mass burning of fossil fuels since the Industrial Revolution. It brings the scientific reality of the climate crisis crashing home. The climate information website Carbon Brief compiled a new database of attribution studies of more than 500 events, every such study available, and shared it exclusively with The Guardian. The analysis of the database and the interviews with the world's leading attribution scientists shows beyond any doubt that we are already deep into the era of climate death and destruction. The key findings. Number one, the 12 events deemed virtually impossible without humanity's destabilization of the climate span the globe, including intense heat waves in North America, Europe, and Japan, soaring temperatures in Siberia, and sweltering seas off Australia. Next point, 71% of the 500 extreme weather events and trends in the database were found to have been made more likely or more severe by human-caused climate change, including 93% of the heat waves, 68% of the droughts, and 56% of the floods or heavy rain. Only 9% of the events were less likely, mostly cold snaps and snowstorms. Next point. 1 in 3 deaths caused by summer heat over the last 3 decades was the direct result of human-caused global heating, implying a toll of millions. Next point. Huge financial costs are also now attributable to human influence on climate, such as a $67 billion of damages when Hurricane Harvey smashed into Texas and Louisiana in 2017, which was 75% of the total damages from the storm. Next point, global heating has been hurting us far longer than commonly assumed, with traces of its influence as far back as the heat waves and droughts that triggered the infamous Dust Bowl in the US in the 1930s. So this is a picture of Germany, Sandy. This is insane. They had extreme flooding throughout Germany recently. And look at this. Everything's destroyed. There's nothing left of the city center. The numbers of dead keep rising every hour. Emotionally, we're at our limit. So this is a little winemaker, Michaela Wolf. She's a winemaker in this city. And look at this town. This is like probably a 600 or 700-year-old town. You know, in Europe, those traditional towns, it's not unusual to have that kind of history.
They weren't made for this.
We weren't made for this, no. We are in the era of climate change, and we have been for decades, said Freddie Otto of Imperial College London. This is what we see strongly in science, but it's not reflected in the policies. This mapping and analysis of climate catastrophes has never been more relevant. Already in 2022, the climate crisis has rampaged around the planet, bringing the reality of global heating into the homes of billions and to the top of news bulletins. Record breaking heat has hit North America, Europe, China, India, Pakistan, sparking wildfires in many places. Terrible floods have swept Australia, Bangladesh, and South Africa. In due course, scientists will firmly link many of these to global heating as they did for the fiery northern hemisphere summer of 2019. And here is a little chart, right? The most extreme weather events studied have been made more severe or more likely by human caused global heating. So the red means obviously, as you would think, the heat waves is global heating. Now, actually, I would like to take exception with one of these things. At the very bottom, yeah, cold snow and ice. It says 39%. But in the instance of the polar vortex in the winter, when these events go deep, like into Texas in North America, all the way down and freeze the pipes hard and put snow in places that typically do not have snow. That actually is due to global warming if you connect it all back, right?
Makes sense, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
So continuing on.
Wow.
But with the Crunch UN Climate Summit in Egypt in November fast approaching, the urgency of the situation is already clear. The goal of limiting heating to 1.5 was on life support with a weakening pulse, said the UN General Secretary Antonio Guterres in July. Without very rapid action to slash carbon emissions by 50% by 2030, far worse extreme weather will ensue. Quote, gone are the days when global heating was in the future, said Christina Figueres, the former UN climate chief who delivered the 2015 Paris climate deal. Quote, human-induced heating is wrecking lives and livelihoods today. Every day of higher emissions increases human poverty and misery. Continuing on the path of rising emissions is senseless, selfish, and avoidable. Mitzi Janelle Tan, a youth activist and survivor of the super typhoons that have hit the Philippines, said, these studies are proof what is being done is nowhere near enough. This is a life and death situation. See, the young know. They know what the hell is going on.
Everybody I
They
talk to
know.
that's young know.
They
They know
know.
a lot.
Oh my God. There is no time to waste, said Professor Bill McGuire at University College London. What is astonishing is the speed with which global heating is translating into a hike in the frequency and intensity of extreme weather when the average temperature of the planet is up by just a little more than 1°C. So this is your life on 1°C,
Yeah.
right? This
Yeah,
is your
this is
life
our
on
life.
1°C. Attribution studies have so far assessed only a fraction of extreme weather events, with particularly concerning gaps in the global south, which is least responsible for the climate crisis, but home to many of the people most vulnerable to its effects. But following is what we know for sure about how much human-caused climate change is to blame for supercharging extreme weather, where it has already hit, and what it has cost us in lives and damage. It is a sobering reckoning of how deeply the climate crisis has already cut into societies and how desperate the need is to stop further deterioration. Finding the footprint.
I know
The
you like
fact that
that.
I love the gong. The gong is so
We're the
profound.
Gong Show,
It just,
guys.
I love the gong. All right. Finding the footprint. The fact that global heating drives more extreme weather is no surprise, even if the pace of change is shocking. Greenhouse gases pumped into the atmosphere by human activity trap more of the sun's heat, putting energy into weather systems and worsening their impacts. Scorching heat waves are the most obvious manifestation and can set forests ablaze. Hotter air can hold more water vapor, about 7% more per 1 degree C rise. Wow. So now we've got 7% more. In our next C, which will be up to 2C, we're going to have 7% more. Again, that's going to be 14%, nearly 15% more water. Yeah, I mean, just like what's going to happen to all that water? It has to dump. It has to dump out of the sky, is what
Well, it ain't dumping
happens.
here.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. That's the problem, right? Yeah. Which means more intense downpours, as we were just saying, and greater floods. The oceans absorb most of the planet's trapped heat, and warmer seas fuel more powerful hurricanes and typhoons. Those heated waters also expand, pushing up sea level and enabling storms to crash further inland. The question the world scientists are tackling is what extent human caused global heating is to blame for a particular extreme weather event as opposed to natural variability in weather patterns. Scientists calculate this by using weather records and computer models to compare two worlds. One world we are in, heated by our carbon emissions. The other is the world before the mass burning of fossil fuels and rising temperatures. Researchers assess how frequent a specific extreme weather event is in both worlds. If more intense and more frequent in our heated world, then the footprint of global heating is clear. Wow, look at this picture. Wow. Because of the heat, we do not get enough sleep. Then we go out and we sit in an open space so that some air can be felt. But where there is no air, it seems that this heat will take our lives. This
Oh,
is a quote from Mashuk Ali, the president of the Rice Mill Workers Union, somewhere. I don't know where.
it's so sad.
Oh, Pakistan.
Pakistan
Jak-
is
that's in
horrible.
Jakabad, Pakistan, talking about the heat wave in Jakabad, Pakistan. So this was a heat wave that they just had.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Jennifer, I literally saw how the people in Pakistan are digging holes. It's not bunkers, they're
Oh
holes in
no.
the ground to put the old people down there just to cool off. And of course they're not bunkers, they're just
So sad.
holes that they
Oh my
dig.
God.
Yeah,
So
it's
sad.
insane. And there I'm afraid that Pakistan, it's a nuclear power, but I
Oh my
feel that
God.
they're gonna perish. And it
Mm-hmm.
hurts. I knew
It
Pakistani
really.
scientists I work with, and they were wonderful. One, he was a climate scientist, and his wife was going to be a doctor. She was studying diabetes. They were amazing, wonderful
Oh wow.
people. And it's just
Wow.
everybody's an amazing, wonderful person when you get to know them.
So let's continue on. The impossibles. The most striking single finding of the Guardian analysis of the attribution studies is the identification of at least a dozen major extreme events that would have been wildly improbable without human caused global heating. Quote, now, suddenly, we're seeing the climate boundaries have been pushed out so far that we can say essentially these events would not have happened without climate change, said Van Alst. Frankly, I've been surprised by how often that's already the case. The ferocious heat dome that struck the Pacific Northwest region of North America in 2021 would have been virtually impossible without human caused climate change, scientists found. Otto said it broke records by 5C and really brought home to me something that was impossible from a statistical point of view can now happen as a new extreme. That's scary. Yet, this once unimaginable calamity would have been expected every 10 years on average if the world heats to 2C, Otto said. Her fear is that the action to protect people from extreme weather normally uses past disasters as a guide, an approach that is useless if the new extremes are far worse. Quote, it's really hard if you have never experienced anything remotely like it. Yeah, you betcha, baby. The searing summer of 2018 saw simultaneous heat waves stretch across the northern hemisphere from the US to Japan and bears a striking resemblance to the events unfolding in 2022. It is virtually certain that the 2018 events would not have occurred without human-induced climate change, scientists found. Even 6 years ago in 2016, the extreme warmth across Asia would not have been possible without climate change, yet another study found. The previous impossible is happening on a planetary scale, too. Earth's run of record breaking hot years from 2014 to 2016 would have a tiny chance of striking less than 0.03% without human caused heating, researchers found. Another study found that in many areas, the hottest days and seasons would not have occurred in thousands of years without global heating. Amazing. Normally, cold places are particularly vulnerable as they are warming the fastest. The phenomenal heat in Siberia in 2020, when the Arctic town of Verkhoyansk registered a record high of 38°C in June, would have been practically impossible without human influence. That heat led to wildfires, which science estimate were 80% more likely due to global heating, and pumped a record 59 million tons of CO2 into the atmosphere, not helping. The oceans absorb most of the climate crisis heat, hitting marine life hard and billions of people who rely on the seas. The marine heat wave of 2017 and 18 in the Tasman Sea was virtually impossible with anthropogenic influence and registered new disease outbreaks in farmed shellfish and the death of wildlife. Almost 90% of marine heat waves today are attributable to human-caused warming, the scientists estimate. So
It's
now
all
we're
our
going to turn
fault.
our mind to it. You betcha, baby. Don't turn away from this. Yeah. Tokyo, Japan. So we're going to talk about the heat wave of 2018 in Japan. And this is what one person, Tokyo resident, said. First, I felt a migraine-like headache. I drank lots of water, but by then it was too late to prevent heat exhaustion and going to the hospital. So this
That
was
sucks.
Layla Tan, who lives in Tokyo, which she experienced. So the costs. Counting the toll of the climate crisis begins with deaths. And scientists are just starting to be able to directly link human caused climate change to human fatalities. The first large-scale study produced stark results. More than a third of heat-related deaths in the summer of from 1991 to 2018 occurred as a result of human-caused global heating. Increased mortality is evident on almost every continent, said Dr. Anna Maria Vicedo Careba of the University of Bern, Switzerland, who led the study. The key message is that climate change is already affecting our health. In the worst affected cities, hundreds of people a year on average are already dying from this extra heat, including in Sao Paulo, 239 deaths, Athens, 189 deaths, Madrid, 177 deaths, Tokyo, 156 deaths, Bangkok, 146 deaths, and New York, 141 deaths. This
Just wait.
study the study covered 732 locations in 43 nations, a lack of data limited wider coverage. It is tricky to extrapolate these findings to a global figure, but a rough estimate given by the scientists is more than 100,000 deaths a year. Over decades, that implies a toll of millions of lives. Some places are being hit especially hard. About three-quarters of heat deaths in Ecuador, Colombia, Guatemala, and Peru result from human-caused global heating, far above the 37% average in the study. This is a consequence of especially rapid heating in these regions, combined with the high vulnerability of poorer people. About 66% of the heat deaths in Kuwait and Iran are also attributed to the climate crisis, while in Norway, the proportion is almost 50%. That's interesting. You wouldn't expect that in Norway.
Yeah, well, shit's happening there.
Yeah.
Just like
Southern Europe
everywhere
has a
else.
high number of deaths owing to an elderly population and the rapidly rising frequency of heat waves. And check this out. This is global heating causes more than half of summer heat deaths in at least a dozen countries. And look at that. Ecuador, Colombia, Guatemala, and Peru
And the
are
countries that don't do anything to
I
deserve this.
know. I know. And
And
they
the
are
big
squarely at
indigenous
the top of the
yeah.
mortality attributed to human climate change. And also, Kuwait is in there, which isn't surprising. But then we go back to South America and
Mhm.
Latin America, and we see Brazil, Costa Rica, then back over to the Arab countries, Iran, and then
Costa Rica.
Philippines, Paraguay, Panama, Thailand, and Puerto
And
Rico.
our Jean is from Costa Rica. That's with us.
Right.
Jean.
Hey,
Yes.
Jean, we
Hi,
love
Jean.
you.
Yes, we do.
These estimates of impact, although a little apocalyptic, yeah, think, mhm, are very much needed as they convey a clear message, said Vicedo Careba. These deaths have occurred with an average global temperature increase of only 1°C, which is lower than even the strictest climate targets outlined in the Paris Agreement, 1.5 to 2°C, and are a fraction of what may occur if the emissions are left unchecked. The grim toll of human caused global heating on children was revealed in a study that found it had killed 7,000 to 11,000 children in under five every year for the last decade in sub-Saharan Africa. Wow, every year 11,000 children are dying in
Yeah,
Africa.
it's insane.
In
It's really
sub-Saharan
insane.
Africa.
Yep.
Yeah. The level of heat-related child deaths was double to what it would have been without climate change, the researchers said. Professor Dan Mitchell of the University of Bristol in the UK warned that countries lacking the health data needed for such studies were often among the poorest and most vulnerable, and worryingly, also major hotspots of rapid population growth, such as India and Nigeria. However, pinning the blame for deaths on global heating does not mean they cannot be prevented with early warnings and adaptation. In Europe, for example, said Van Ast, these are almost entirely avoidable deaths. The number of global heating deaths caused by more complex weather is trickier to assess, but the increased intensity of Hurricane Maria due to human-induced climate change led to the death of up to 3,670 people in 2017, according to one study. That's a lot, right? Extreme weather
Mm-hmm.
also destroys houses, businesses, roads, bridges, and more. And researchers have begun adding up these costs. Hurricane Harvey's 67 billion in climate costs was in part due to global heating having increased the extreme rainfall by about 20%. Holy moly.
Holy moly.
Remember we just said that there's 7% more moisture, right?
Yep.
Humidity
Yep.
in
More
the
moisture.
atmosphere, which also, of course, is greenhouse gas. So this is 3 times. So 7%, and then the extreme rainfall was up to over 20% more, right?
Mm,
Because it's not falling equally. People think, oh, well,
right.
that's great.
No.
I need more rain. No, 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 no. You don't understand. It's going to freaking dump on you in
Yeah,
a
and that's what
rain
it did
bomb
last year
and ruin
here.
your freaking house,
Yeah, it did that
you know?
last year here. Everybody lived through my bullshit. Now they're living through my drought with me.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So in the UK, the exacerbation of 4 floods between 2000 and 2020 by global heating caused $9
9
billion
billion.
of damages, half the total. The food supplies we rely on are also being ravaged by human caused global heating. Between 1991 and 2017, 27 billion of insured dollars of insured crops in the US were lost as a result of humanity's emissions. On the other side of the world, New Zealand farmers lost $185 million US of crops to the deepening of droughts by the climate crisis in the decade of 2017. So, on to Houston, and we're going to talk about what happened with Hurricane Harvey 5 years ago. Hurricane Harvey. When I woke up on Sunday, the water was up to my chest. I've got arthritis, but I was able to
God.
get out of the living room window. I'm blessed to be alive. Charlene Hamilton, a retired nurse,
Wow.
yeah, in Houston, right? All around the world. Global heating, unsurprisingly, has a global impact. But the impact of extreme weather is felt locally by each community, for which global heating has loaded the dice of disaster.
Mm.
Holy crap, what a phrase. Global heating has loaded the dice of disaster.
I think
Crap.
that one should get a bang, don't you think?
Yeah,
Thinking
I
if I
do.
could find the bang.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Here we
European
go.
and
Here we go, Jennifer. That's the bang.
European and Latin American cities are among the worst affected by summer heat deaths due to the climate crisis. So this
Here we
basically
go.
compares all of these things, and I won't go into the detail in it, but you can share it with the guys and they can take a look at it and maybe figure it out on their own. But we still have things to do here. So, Europe. July temperatures in France in 2019, when heat records tumbled like dominoes and Paris hit
No.
42.6 C, prompted one of the most startling attribution studies to date. It was not just the scientists' conclusion that remarkably the heat wave might not have been possible without climate change, but the scale of the soaring temperature increases. Quote, the heat wave we looked at in Toulouse would have been 4C cooler. That's huge. That's
Mhm.
huge without climate change. And that was in a world that only had 1C of global warming, Otto said. A change of 4C is incredible. And that's what we've been talking about, guys. Where are we going? Where these are the good old days. We are living right now.
These are the good old days.
Scientists are increasingly concerned that the steady rise in global average temperatures is not mirrored by a gradual rise. Get this, guys, it's not a gradual rise in extreme temperatures, but is delivering extraordinary events. We so often see things that take us by surprise, said Van Alst. The heat trends in Western Europe, for example, are so much faster in the observations than we would expect from the models. Researchers think the models do not yet capture all the factors involved.
Oh boy.
You betcha,
that
baby.
one's the yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That one gets the
Where-
boom.
You betcha, baby.
Mm-mm-mm.
Records were also shattered by the downpours that caused fatal flooding across Germany and Belgium in 2021, killing at least 243 people. Those rains were found to have been made up to 9 times more likely by global heating. The climate crisis is also manifesting in places better known for mild weather. In the UK's temperature record was smashed in 46 different places in July this year, topping 40C for the first time in some, and the heat wave is estimated to have killed about 1,000 people. The heat was made up to 10 times more likely by global heating. How do you like them odds? Whew.
I don't.
The UK's wettest day was delivered by Storm Alex in 2020, which cut off power for many. The downpour was made 2.5 times more likely by human climate influence. And back here in North America, in the US, Texas suffers frequently. In many ways, they suffer frequently. We won't go into all of it. Oh, yeah, also climate change. But more than a decade ago in 2011, when the then governor, Rick Perry, whom we knew and loved, right, guys? Don't you remember that whack job?
Oh,
Was
Rick
falsely
Perry.
accusing
Idiot.
climate scientists of manipulating data. And there was an
Asshole.
exceptionally hot summer found to have been made 10 times more likely by global heating. That guy was such a fucking asshole.
Yep. He
In
was.
California, the worst drought in a millennium hit between 2012 and 2014, with human-caused global heating a substantial factor. Tens of thousands of farm workers lost their jobs, billions of dollars in damage was recorded, and 100 million trees died. Sad. Really sad. Wildfires often accompany droughts, and they have raged across the western U.S., torching homes and more. The area burned between 1984 and 2015 was doubled by global heating, scientists estimate. In Canada's wildfire season of 2017, the record area burned in British Columbia. More than 1 million hectares was between 7 and 11 times greater than it would have been without global heating. How much more data is necessary to convince anybody who doesn't see the truth? So let's
think about this. Yeah.
It's just like astounding to me. Vancouver, Canada. It's a mental condition. Clearly, it's a mental condition. Denialism.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, well, these people are they have a mental condition. Don't know. Heat wave in 2021 in Vancouver. I saw more heat-related illness. Remember, guys, this is when Canada got up to like 120 Fahrenheit. I saw more heat-related illness than I had ever seen in my career. Even a small rise in body temperature left unabated can lead to longer-term brain damage. It's like cooking your brain. That was Dr. Melissa Lem, the president of the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment. and then over to Asia, guys, and then I think we'll be finishing this up.
Yeah, this
The
was one
continent,
comprehensive
it's
article.
really long. It's really super
Yeah,
long, but
but it's really
it's a
good.
good one.
I
The
mean, it's
continent that
comprehensive.
is home to nearly two-thirds of the human race is being hit by the climate storm just as hard as elsewhere, probably harder actually, from what I've
Mm.
seen. Most unequivocal was the finding that the extreme warmth across the region in 2016, which affected billions, would not have been possible without climate change. Global heating, supercharged by the Typhoon Haiyan, which battered the Philippines in 2013, pushing up a storm surge that sent ocean water crashing inland by 20%, killing 7,000 people. And that was storm surge. Quote, I grew up seeing typhoons devastating our community, said Tan, the youth activist.
Mm.
These attribution studies aren't just studies. Each statistic reflects a community that experienced that extreme weather event, a family, an individual, a student, a young person whose lives were devastated because of the climate crisis. China, in particular, is enduring a roller coaster of extreme weather made worse by global heating. Exceptional rains at the start of 2019 were made 30% more likely and blocked out the sun in the middle lower Yangtze Plain, cutting sunshine hours by 57% and reducing rice production. Food, guys,
There you
food.
go.
By May that year, drought conditions had arrived in southwest China. The severe low rainfall event was made about 6 times more likely by human climate influence. Extreme wildfires followed in South China, with the weather related risk ramped up sevenfold by global heating.
Oh,
In
lovely.
one conflagration, a huge fireball was formed in an instant. The authorities reported killing 30 people. Holy cow! A
Yeah.
fireball.
Yeah.
Crap. A
Yeah.
year later, it was heavy rain that struck southwest China in August. Floodwaters reached the toes of the famous Leishan giant Buddha statue for the first time since the communist state was formed in 1949. The deluge was made twice as likely by human influence. In 2020, heat plagued southern China, hot events similar to this cannot occur under past climate, researchers said. Then on to India. Asia's other population superpower has been far less studied. But a rapid analysis found that the sweltering heat that hit the northwest India and southeast Pakistan in March and April this year was made 30 times more
Wow.
likely by the climate crisis. Holy
Unreal.
crap, 30 times. What's the percentage? I mean, Jesus. A similar heat wave in 2010 was made 100 times more likely, scientists calculated. Deadly fires in Indonesia in 2015 were boosted by high temperatures, the chances of which were substantially increased by human
Ooh.
induced climate change. The vast haze of smoke that engulfed the region and kept millions of children out of school is estimated to have killed 100,000
100,000
people.
people.
Oh my God.
100,000.
Oh my God. That's
Yeah.
Indonesia in
Uh-huh.
2015.
Uh-huh.
100,000 people that were killed by
And we're not
smoke.
even
Oh,
talking
that's
about the animals,
awful.
the
Oh
wildlife.
my
This doesn't. It's
God.
only talk. This is human centered.
Yes,
This is
people,
not even.
people, people, people.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Arabian Gulf, which may face unsurvivable conditions in the future, you think, appears to have been barely assessed by attribution studies.
Unreal.
Well, maybe now might be the time. Okay, let's move on to Australia. Australia may, until recently, have had a government that had little concern for the climate crisis, but the climate crisis remains an extraordinary concern for Australia. In the notorious Black Summer of 2019 and 2020, there were blazing bushfires, and the influence of global
Remember that.
heating is now clear. The summer saw a high fire weather index, a measure of dangerous conditions that was made 4 times more likely by global heating. 2 years earlier, a baking summer in New South Wales was made at least 50 times more likely, while a record warm Australia spring in 2014 would probably have never occurred without human driven CO2 rises in previous decades. While most people sweltered, so did the famous Great Barrier Reef, which suffered a catastrophic die off of corals in 2016. I remember when that happened. It was shocking. It's still
Yeah, of
shocking.
course it's
It's
shocking.
amazing. The hot March weather that caused it was made 175 times more likely by human influence on the climate. I mean, this is unbelievable. Look at that picture of the turtle over the bleached barrier reef, and this is in
Yeah.
the Great
And
Barrier
and
Reef
and
in
the
Australia.
deniers like to say that, "Oh, this is not happening."
Oh yeah,
No. It's
screw
not
stuff.
happening.
That's
Yeah.
right. All right, guys. So that's really sad. All the things that live on the coral have been ejected. They've gone away and died. It's like 10 cyclones have come ashore all at once. Our estimate is that close to 50% of the coral is already dead or dying, and this was Professor Terry Hughes, the National Coral Bleaching Task Force. Holy cow. And the bottom
Wow.
is what it should look like. It should look brown, not this ghostly white with no life, no fish, no nothing. Okay, well, on to Africa.
Been around
The
the world.
biggest yeah, the biggest tragedy we have ever seen was how the South African president Cyril Ramaphosa described the floods of 2022 that killed many hundreds of people and left the declaration of a national disaster, state disaster. Global heating made them twice as likely and more intense. Drought has also been exacerbated with the high profile Day Zero event in Cape Town in 2018, the result of an exceptionally dry 3 year pattern made 5 to 6 times more likely by global heating. The rest of Africa has been poorly studied. Just a continent, guys. Take a look what's going on. But the global heating played a significant role in the 2015 drought in Ethiopia, the worst in decades, affecting nearly 10 billion people and killing crops and livestock. In Lesotho, global heating was a critical driver of food crisis that gripped the nation in 2007. Van Al said it was vital to remember that these climate driven events do not act alone, but compound other problems. For instance, there is a terrible hunger in the Horn of Africa with literally thousands of people dying right now and the potential for hundreds of thousands more, he said. That is partly drought and other climate related hazards. They've had floods and locust infestations as well.
Yeah,
It
the
sounds
locust.
freaking
Remember the
biblical.
locust? We went
Jesus.
through that.
Yes,
We
I
did it.
do.
We've covered everything. Ugh.
Oh my God. But the
Yeah.
extreme weather had intensified the problems caused by conflict, a COVID related rise in extreme poverty, and high food prices due to the war in Ukraine. Not all extreme weather events analyzed to find an in not all extreme weather events analyzed find an influence from global heating. But these studies are revealing too, said Otto, in highlighting the depth of existing fragility. The recent famine in Madagascar was a result of poverty and over reliance on annual rains, not global heating, research found. This showed how much there is to do to be even resilient in the face of the current climate that we have, let alone a worsening one. Oh my
Wow.
God. And this poor person in Ethiopia is scraping in a ditch to try and get some water and filter out something that she can drink. There is nothing we can do. We are having to sell our cattle to buy food, but the cattle are sick because they don't have enough to eat. And this is a person named Balcha, who is a farmer and the head of a family of 9. This is so sad, so
It
sad.
is. It's horrible.
Okay. And in Latin America, on 27 May this year in Northeast Brazil, 22 days of rain fell in 24 hours. It was part of a week of downpours that led to catastrophic floods and landslides, killing at least 133 people and displacing tens of thousands more. A rapid assessment found global heating was at least partly responsible. But few other attribution studies have been done in Latin America, home to 650 million people. P.S. One found the fingerprints of global heating on a severe drought in the southern Amazon in 2010. The subsequent die-off of trees and stunted growth of others resulted in 4 billion more tons of CO2 in the atmosphere. This thing is gassing out, roughly equivalent to the annual emissions of the European Union. Okay, that's it. I mean, the Amazon is producing more carbon dioxide than oxygen. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
Even more temperate parts of South America have been affected. In December 2013, Argentina endured a heat wave made 5 times more likely by global heating, and in 2017, major floods in Uruguay were made more likely by the same factor. So we're on to conclusion. Known unknowns. The scarcity of studies in the global south worries scientists. It's a huge concern and is adding to the injustice of climate change, said Van Elst. The people that have contributed the least to it are hit the hardest, and we can't even tell how bad it really is. The lack of knowledge is preventing people from finding the best ways to deal with the impacts, said Otto. Attribution studies are not about distilling the role of climate change, but about trying to disentangle the drivers of disaster. The problem is the lack of local scientific expertise and funding. Most researchers work on attribution studies as volunteers. Without crucial support for global South-based research, we will be forgotten once again, said Tan.
Of course.
Long tail. The heaviest footprint of the climate crisis on human suffering has been found in recent months, but global heating has been hurting us for many years. There are traces of its influence on heat waves that caused the Dust Bowl in the US in the mid-1930s. The starving families forced to leave their homes, immortalized in John Steinbeck's novel The Grapes of Wrath, are mirrored by these, excuse me, by those enduring heat, drought, and hunger today. A global study of hot weather events since 1900 also found a significant human contribution to the probability of record-breaking global temperature events as early as the 1930s. Wow.
Yeah.
More than 20
Birthed a
years
lot of
ago,
crap.
yeah, before many of today's youth climate strikers were born, Australia's millennium drought was partially responsible or is partially attributable to anthropogenic greenhouse warming. In England, 2/3 of the autumn floods in 2000 were made 90% more likely by global heating, and researchers now estimate that flood heights from Katrina, which hit New Orleans in 2005, would have been 15 to 60% lower without global heating. Now, this last one, it's debatable. You guys tell me what you think. The future is in our hands. The science of attribution has delivered a bleak but undeniable picture of how global heating is already bringing death and destruction. But what about the future? This is what a feverish Earth looks like today, said Bill McKibben, climate author and campaigner. The
Billy
fact
boy.
that we're currently headed for 3°C of temperature rise in the light of these studies is, of course, terrifying. And 3C won't be 3 times as worse. The damage will be exponential, not linear. Wrap our heads around that. Vicedo Cabrera was blunt about our prospects. As the world heated up more and urban populations grew, she said, the number of heat deaths will be much larger. The lack, oh my goodness, the lack of attention paid to scientists' prior warning frustrates Van Alst, who is worried about the pace of escalating damage. We are seeing worst case scenarios known about 10 years ago, and we had feared that might happen several decades on, already playing out right now, he said. Is there a reason for any hope? I don't know. Perhaps the world will finally realize that acting now is far cheaper than not. The impacts are so much more expensive than anything. Is it really about money? If it has to be, okay, fine, put it about money. It is so much more expensive than anything we would do to mitigate them, said Otto. Attribution studies might help accelerate the vital funds needed by poor nations to rebuild after disasters. They prove that specific extreme weather events whose damage we know the costs of were caused by the climate crisis, said Tan. Figueres remains stubbornly optimistic, and I've noticed about her, and it drives me kind of cuckoo in not a good way. Yeah, no, it does. I mean, she drives me like,
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, take it in, guys. Comment. Quote, we are not doomed to a continuation of this madness. We, each of us, still hold the pen that will write the future. Collectively, we have the capacity to make the extraordinary changes we need in order to course correct. Don't say I didn't warn you, right? I mean, I wish it was true. I really do. It is precisely at this late hour It is precisely at this late hour when, for many, the darkness is at its most intense. We must find the strength to stand up in the firm conviction that this challenge is daunting as it is conquerable, and that we can sprint toward the light. Boy, okay.
That was.
Hopium much?
Well,
it's not quite done. I need a little drink. My throat.
You've done spectacular.
Oh my God, this has been so long. I'm so tired.
The whole show, but it's not.
Oh my God, I'm so tired. In the grip of the Dust Bowl, Steinbeck's character Ma also understood that the future was yet to be written. Up ahead, they's 1,000 lives we might live, she said. But when it comes, it'll only be one. So there you go. That's
Jennifer,
it.
you get definitely an applause for doing that one. Thank you. That was a whole show, but it was really an all around. I mean, it really was. And the Guardian covered it all. Okay, so.
All right.
Now, I am going to do this quickly because we have an intermission. So after this, I'm going to do an intermission. I'm not going to read this whole. I'm not reading this whole thing, but
no.
This is the article that my brother and Rollins Witch sent me about, of course, because I'm getting a rainwater, I'm doing my rainwater catchment system. This was the outside the safe operating space of a new planetary boundary for per and polyfluoroalkyl PFASs substances. So I'm not going to read the abstract. Okay, but this is the article from Environmental Science and Technology, and this one is what I decided to use this one, which Rollins Witch sent me, and accept and close. Okay, so PFOA in rain worldwide exceeds EPA advisory level, which means that if you drink the rainwater, you're fucked. Okay, there we
Oh,
go. We're
dear.
done. All right.
Oh,
So
dear.
very quickly,
I've heard
rain
enough.
yeah, we've heard enough. Rain and snow around the world contain higher concentrations of a toxic, persistent industrial chemical than the US EPA advisory level for the substance in drinking water. And that was what I showed you. I showed you this, and this is the article. So basically, it's showing that we can't drink water that we collect. We can't drink our rainwater. I wasn't going to drink it in my new rainwater catchment system anyway.
Is there
It's
any
for
way to get this
irrigation.
out of the water? That's horrible.
This how it's coming from the
I don't
atmosphere.
know.
So
I don't know.
they said the rainwater everywhere should be judged
Oh,
unsafe to
shoot.
drink. And my brother was concerned because he knows that I'm putting in this system, but I told him I'm not drinking it. But I am getting these. You know, you have to have the water. I'm cleaning up the container, and you will have to use water purifiers. So this based on this. Rainwater everywhere is unsafe, and the American Chemistry Council is actually taking the EPA to court over the advisory levels for PFOA and a related compound, the PFOSs in drinking water. The industry organization, which said that which includes companies that may be liable for cleanup of the chemicals, claims the agency did not use the best available peer-reviewed data to establish those levels. Okay. So PFOSs pose health hazards similar to PFOAs, according to the EPA. So meanwhile, 3M, formerly the major U.S. manufacturer of PFOA and sole maker of PFOS, has phased out production of the molecules 2 decades ago, Cousins and his colleagues note. The two chemicals and several other PFASs are known to be cycling between surface water, notably oceans, and the atmosphere. Such cycling means that the levels of PFAS in rainwater will be practically irreversible, Jennifer. The paper concludes.
Everything sucks,
yep.
Sandy. I haven't heard any good news yet.
No. So what I wanted to quickly read to you was what Rollins Witch sent me in the email. And really quick, a higher level article, which was this one. Apparently, standards will soon be set. Will the world soon be declared a hazardous waste site? I remember the PCB debacle. Cleanup and change is costly, but industries still screw up. We used to be able to see and smell the pollution. The rivers ran in colors. The air was visible and stunk. But now we can't see or smell the problem. Now a laboratory is needed to analyze parts per trillion while industry argues the results. But the slideshow continues as a growing regional railroad purchases a building where firefighting equipment was once produced. The main reason for this expansion is the increasing market for anthracite coal. Stoke those fires, the irony of metallurgical production. And basically that's, what he's saying is it's not going to stop because of the production of all this shit. So there's that. And now, guys, we are going to take a break. I need a break. You need a break. Stick around. We are going to water. All right? We are going to water. We are playing a video.
Maybe this one doesn't have it.
It had sound.
Did it?
Yeah, something's wrong with it. Let me start it over. I can't believe it. I worked really hard on this thing, and there's no sound.
Oh, this is the one you made. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, crap.
You guys hear any sound, guys? Oh, wait.
No.
My fault. That's my fault. All right.
We have sound. Okay.
Intermission. Watch this. I have to get up. All right. Well, that was the intermission.
Wow. That was an
And we
amazing video.
wanted, yeah, we juxtaposition because we've been talking about droughts and, but now we are going to fires in Siberia.
Mhm.
And we are going to look at the Siberian times. And we have some videos that we're going to try to show. But Jennifer, did you want to do a little narration on this one?
Well, I mean, just look at all that soot. And by the way, anybody here who knows where the Yamal Peninsula, see Novaya Zemlya, that thing sticking up in the upper left-hand corner, right? And then right under that is the Yamal Peninsula. My point is that this smoke plume is as big or bigger actually than the entire Yamal Peninsula, the one that's right under it. All that is soot. And these fires in Siberia are the fiercest in the world. And they are permafrost and they're like zombie fires. We've talked about it a lot. So Siberia is yet again on fire, Sandy. That's the
Again.
point. Yeah.
Yep. And we're going to move down to this one. This one has no sound, but we will show you. Look at this.
Oh my God, that's the smoke. Oh my God. Remember they said that people were dying of smoke inhalation somewhere? Yeah. Well, wouldn't be surprised if Siberia, I mean, you can't breathe that in. That's very bad.
Look at that.
No way.
Unfucking real. And my first fuck of the night. Oh well. That is the from the Khanty Mansyevsky Autonomous District in Western Siberia, and it grew so thick closer to the epicenter that planes can't take off, and 1,500 people are fighting the fires. And here is another one, Jen. Let's look at this.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So yeah.
So that's smoke? Is that smoke or clouds?
No,
Smoke.
that's
Smoke.
That's smoke.
That's smoke.
Eastern
Wow.
Siberia is having
Check
more and
that
more
out.
wildfires of relevant sizes.
Look at
This
that
one is larger.
plume.
Yeah,
Huge.
200 kilometers. And it's now Yakutsk, which is absolutely beautiful when it's not on fire. I'll have to play you some
Yeah,
videos
absolutely.
of Yakutsk.
That's incredible.
And look at that. This is, again, well, Yakutia. It's the coldest territory. And it's 450,000 hectares. Yep. Look at that. Now, here's an airplane. This one has some sound. If you can hear it. Oh, I don't know if you can hear it. Hang on. I'm going to fix it. See if you can hear it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. See? And all that stuff is horrible. It's horrible. Horrible for the environment. Horrible.
Oh my God.
And here's more. And Jennifer, some of the smoke that's in that area is coming through our atmosphere. We saw it was very smoky the other night, just looking out of our, sitting on the deck. I was sitting on the deck and saying, gee, look how smoky it looks, and it could be reaching us. So here's another one. Multiple fires. This is West Siberia, Russia, August 6th. And Copernicus.
Wow. Oh my
Look
God.
at that. Copernicus caught this one. Yep. It is a mess. Let's see. Hey, Jude said, I reckon methane is already gushing out.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, all that permafrost, which is, we've talked about that ad infinitum on this show. And yeah, methane's part of the equation there. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
And that's, I mean, and then look at all that smoke. All that smoke is heading straight over the Arctic sea ice, whatever remains of it. What do you think that's going to do to the albedo of the Arctic sea ice? I mean,
It's horrible.
it's just, it's not long for this world.
Well,
Yeah.
not this. I mean, it's a mess. It's a mess. The fires are a mess.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think that was it for this. So, that's what we wanted to show you. The Siberian Times definitely was showing what was going on up there, and I
Yeah.
don't think there is anything else. Oh wait, nope. Here's another one. Here's another one. Let's see if we
My
can get
goodness,
this
what's
one
that?
up. Yeah. That's fighting the fires.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Look at that thing.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah,
Horrible.
it's quite
Oh my
yep,
God.
more
This
more
world is
of
just,
this.
I
Look
mean,
at
this
the smoke.
world, it's like fire and floods, that's what's
Right.
wiping us out. The floods wipe you out, the fires wipe you out, the drought wipes you out.
Yakusha.
Too
Yakusha.
bad.
Here's another one. Oh yeah, they've got a ton of stuff going on here. Let's pull this one up since I think you guys can hear it. Nobody's telling me you can't. Now look at that on the road up there. They can't even drive. They can't even drive. I think you guys can hear this. Yeah, the system audio's working. Look at that.
Yeah.
They're stuck on the road up there, and I guess, there's
Well,
people
that's
that
really
live there.
dangerous because these tundra fires, tundra no more, right? Permamesh fires or whatever,
Mhm.
you can
Yeah.
sweep right over the road. And what if you're caught? What if you're caught in a fire that sweeps right over the road and you're in a traffic jam and you can't leave?
And
I mean,
that's happened to people in
oh
California.
man.
It's horrible. See, this is the
Oh,
smoke, and it's across the Arctic Circle. See, Jennifer, where
yeah.
you can see,
Yeah. Yeah.
like you said, the Yamal, and the air quality is horrible, horrible. So we just wanted to show you what was going on because you know that we love the Arctic and we love everything about the Arctic, but we don't love this. All right,
No.
here is
No.
some more. Here's some more. Look at that. Just burning.
Oh my God. Oh, it's so sad when the trees burn.
Of course. You
Oh,
lose the
so
trees.
sad. This whole thing is so tragic. It's so sad. Oh man.
Yep.
Oh.
Look at that.
Сейчас сюда пойдет, слышно, вот эти ближние деревья.
It's awful.
Там эрлоха с эрлохами есть.
And they have to make those fire lanes through the forests to fight them. They have to do that. And again, there's more of from Copernicus, the image on July 31st showing more of the plumes.
Yeah.
Look at these are unreal, aren't they? Let me get closer on this one.
So sad.
Copernicus is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Unreal. Unreal. So much. Thank you to Siberian Times. I'm not going to play this YouTube.
Siberian
but this
Times is always great for videos and imagery and photos
Oh
and stuff.
my God. Here's another one. Let's get this one. Look at this. Horrible. Horrible.
So sad. So sad.
Unreal. It's just unreal. Oh, this is a good one.
So
I remember
so-
seeing this earlier.
so
Well, let's just look at this one really quick.
oh my God. Unbelievable. So horrible. Ugh. Horrible, Sandy.
And there, look, there's the permafrost. You know, the areas are just awful.
Absolutely horrible.
Yep.
This is your Earth on abrupt
Oops.
climate change.
Look at that. How'd that come up? I guess we're. I guess we're. Well, here. This is
Um,
another one. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
well, Sandy, it had.
Oops. Sorry. Wait. Ooh, I didn't mean to do that. Okay. Yes.
Conflagration. I'm just calling our attention to the time.
Okay. All right. Then we're going to move on. We have.
And I suggest that in the interest of time, we don't do
Okay.
the articles from Times Now. It's already, I mean, this is a
Yeah, we've been a
ridiculous
long one.
show, and
Heat
I
waves in
don't
Europe,
want
flood in the Gulf. What is causing such erratic weather patterns? This will
to.
be in the show notes. Okay.
Yeah,
Everybody has probably
yeah.
understands what's
And
going on here.
and I hope we skip the drought hits Europe's
You
rivers
want to just
also.
look at the pictures?
No, I don't.
Okay. All
This
right.
show is
Then
too long.
what
I
we
don't
are
want to do
going to do.
multi-hour shows.
All right.
I
What we are
want.
going to
I
do
know.
is this. Jennifer, please
What?
take
All right.
it away.
So, guys, really, this is a tribute to James Lovelock. Many of us here followed the work of James Lovelock, loved his work. He was the creator of the Gaia hypothesis. He died on his 103rd birthday. He was best known for his theory that the Earth is a self-regulating community of organisms. A great, great thinker. And let's see, something I can read. He was one of the UK's most respected independent scientists, and he had been in good health until 6 months ago when he had a fall. Here it is. Known as something of a maverick, he had been dispensing predictions from his one-man laboratory since the mid-1960s. And in his old age, he continued his work. His Gaia hypothesis posits that life on Earth is a self-regulating community of organisms interacting with each other and their surroundings. He said 2 years ago that the biosphere was in its last 1% of life. I mean, think about that. Think about that. Our beloved James Lovelock died yesterday in his home, surrounded by his family and on his 103rd birthday. To the world, he is best known as a scientific pioneer, climate prophet, and conceiver of the Gaia theory. To us, he was a loving husband and wonderful father with boundless sense of curiosity, mischievous sense of humor, and a passion for nature. So that's pretty much all I want to say. I mean, he was pivotal. He's written many, many books, and I just loved his integrated, very conscious, thoughtful is beloved to us all. So that's what I
He
wanted
sure
to say.
was. He sure
Yeah.
was. And I want to thank everyone for coming to our show. Yes, we didn't get to everything, but it was okay. It'll still be in the show notes. Like and subscribe, like we usually say. Like and subscribe. Do all that good stuff. Thank you for everybody that makes the Buy Me a Coffee. It is absolutely helpful. I want to thank you guys. You know who you are. I'm not going to name the names. Jennifer, I love you. We did
I
not
love
do
you
a
too.
we didn't do a toilet flush. And I don't know if Earl is still here, but what would we flush out of everything we read tonight? Pick one.
um, I mean, holy moly. I would say let's flush those floods away. Those floods are stunning. I mean, the flood in Oman. Holy,
Yeah,
that's just
holy
like
shit.
unbelievable. And the fires in Siberia.
The Environmental Coffee House flush
Yeah.
of the day. Earl waited the whole show.
Did you really? Well, I mean, it's an amazing time that we live in, and just the fact that we couldn't get to, and we had pared down this article set, guys. Sorry if I got a little bit, like,
Honey,
time
you're
anxious.
tired.
Well, no, it's not. I'm not tired. I can go all night. I want to keep I can. I can. Once I get in the groove, I don't get tired. That's not my
It's
thing.
in the
But
group.
but the thing is, the show gets too long, and then I get time anxious. So,
Okay, honey,
yeah.
you're my
Yeah.
partner, and I want to make you happy.
Yeah.
I want to
So
make her
anyway,
happy.
guys,
We love you.
yeah. I
Okay,
love you
guys,
too.
then we are going to say good night. We will see you next Tuesday. I will let you know when I will be back because this is a very busy season with now I'm harvesting and there's so much to do on my homestead. But we love you. We
Yes, we
love
do.
you. Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Peace out.